I'm on WikiHow to try to learn how to structure a review. Hello. Uh, I mean, you haven't seen any of the off-the-cuff recorded reviews that I did for other games yet, and maybe you never will. Maybe when I die, my friend will archive them and show them off to all my friends. But maybe I'll upload them. I don't know. I like off the cuff. I don't like scripted. I'm the same way with videos that I watch. I mean, it's certainly for lack of trying on my part. Like, I don't really feel like putting a script together. But I feel like that takes away from the spirit of it anyway. There should be structure, though. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do for this, especially because we're going to be going through 3 games. And yes, I'm sure you've already seen there will be timestamps to help you along the way, because I'm sure that just as much as nobody's going to watch this, nobody's going to watch this in one sitting, let alone be interested in everything I'm talking about. But who knows? Maybe I'll get that one comment that's like, hey, you're wrong. But, I mean, this is for archival purposes, mostly. It's for getting my thoughts out there. I'm terrible at deadlines. How you doing? You doing good? You enjoying yourself? You should get something to eat. You're gonna want it. I feel like this is gonna be an hour long. But I guess getting right into it is the best possible way to do it. That's right. I was gonna be an asshole. So, I don't remember exactly how I was going to be an asshole, but I remember what I was going to be an asshole about. So I'm going to do it kind of the way I thought of doing it. If you are unable to play a game with fixed camera angles and tank controls, like the original Resident Evils, I am fully and completely convinced that you did not try for more than an hour. And that's not gonna come up, because my reviews on these games are purely based on where Resident Evil's going. I have accepted that we seem to be away from fixed camera angles and tank controls forever. Doesn't mean a game can't be good without those things. It just means that it can't do the same things, and it never will. There are benefits to that method of making games, and it's a shame that we'll never see them again, because people call it unplayable. But nonetheless, why am I talking about this? Why is this even coming up? And why is it not going to come up again? Resident Evil 4 took a departure from the original Resident Evil formula. I am certain that you are surprised by that. Resident Evil 4 took it to over the shoulder, and actually it didn't take away the tank controls, contrary to popular belief. And back in the day, looking at it from the outside and having seen the old Resident Evil games, I was kind of even when I was young and I'd only seen the games, I thought it was kind of weird and I was always kind of bothered by Resident Evil 4. Since then, I've learned and grown to judge the game based on its own merits. I realized that it's a very revolutionary game for the things that it does. This WikiHow spelled Mortal Kombat with a C. Side note. And you know what? Resident Evil 4. It took me a while to play it. I started the Resident Evil series like 2 years ago now. 3 years ago, maybe. And I stopped at 4 because I couldn't run it. And I went to it again briefly, but wasn't in the mood. Finally, started playing it because Resident Evil 2 remake's coming out. I gotta rush, I gotta know everything because God forbid they make a reference. God forbid they make DLC for Resident Evil 2 that's just like, hey, what if the Resident Evil 7 people were in Resident Evil 2? What if they were in the police department? Wouldn't that be cool? Here's an alternate timeline episode. I don't want to be caught in that. So I'm trying to verse myself. Resident Evil 4. Where do I start? Where did I want to start? Let's do the graphics. I mean, for a PS2 game, for the PS2 era, I believe it was one of the best looking games on the PS2. And it's funny. Like, it actually, in a lot of cases, looked better than Final Fantasy X, which you would not expect. Final Fantasy X is a pretty game. Final Fantasy X is a very good game. However, when you're trying to sell me an HD remaster on Steam, and you expect me to say that the graphics are remastered for this, you're fooling yourself. The original Resident Evil 4, great graphics, although very dull. I would have been off-put by that back then, and I'm off-put by it now. It's very dull and drab and gray. And does it fit the theme of the village? I don't know. But we'll get to that. The HD remaster on Steam, and I'm assuming on PS4 and other consoles, is garbage. It is absolute garbage. It's not an HD remaster by any sense of the word. They upped things a little bit, certainly, but not as much as they could have. Not as much as, I mean, I don't know how much it came out to be sold for, but it was already out on PC. I probably would have played that and experienced not much of a difference. I don't care about graphics. I just care that they tried to release it as an HD remaster when it's just not. Content is alright. Especially the full edition. You got side modes. Mercenaries is always been pretty cool. And you see its rise as you go along the Resident Evil games. And this Mercenaries, as I understand it, is very addicting, very famous. A lot of people still play it. I tried it out. It was kind of fun. However, the controls of the game, which is just about the second thing that you see. Just about. Because you get a little bit of other stuff. But the controls of the game are they're hard to get used to, but easy to handle. Tank controls are in there, which is fine. The problem was always the camera for me. I can't get into over the shoulder. And it's probably just a me thing, but I feel like... I mean, I certainly got used to it for Resident Evil 4. It's probably a me thing. I always am, like... I always just really want to move the camera down. I don't like having it fixed to the character's back like that. I like seeing my surroundings. And that adds to the whole thing of the game. Like, you can sometimes turn and there's an enemy next to you or behind you that you didn't hear, that you didn't know about, and whoa, there they are. And of course it also lends to the combat nature of the game. But the combat nature of the game is kind of shitty. There's my first curse. Oh well. It's all downhill from here. The combat doesn't feel like... It doesn't feel fluid. Like, it feels fluid, but it doesn't feel correct, I think is the better term for it. Hang on a second. I had a problem with the fact that, as opposed to original Resident Evil games, where most of the time you do want to try to avoid the zombies, it's hard. It's hard to avoid the zombies. In this game, it's not hard to avoid anyone whatsoever. In fact, you can run into them, and if you run into them hard enough, you'll pop past them, and they won't hit you. On top of that, the method of combat just doesn't feel right. Like, at all. You shoot someone, you melee them, you knife them on the ground, they're dead. That's the best method, usually, unless it's a group of monsters, then you want to take out the shotgun, of course. But it's just... It doesn't feel like it was the way it was meant to be. I don't feel like I was meant to be knifing the kneecaps of every single enemy, but that was just the best way to play, besides running past them. And the funny thing is, I spent a good amount of the game not running past them. And towards the end of the game, when I realized that I could, I was just like, oh, why didn't I do that the whole time? Like, of course, there's parts where you can't. Like, you have to kill things for certain things. But the temptation to just run past 75% of the enemies in the game is now very high. The only thing holding it back is the possibility of money to upgrade your weapons and not take as long to beat the final boss, possibly, or any of the bosses you're forced to fight. But that's it. And for a game so praised, that disappointed me a lot. A lot of games took inspiration from this game, and I don't know. I feel like the whole combat system doesn't live up to exactly what I've heard all my life. However, that isn't to say that I didn't enjoy playing it, because whenever I was at work, after playing a whole bunch of it the night before, I was always like really wanting to play it. Like it was a fun game that I really wanted to play. It's just I felt wrong about how I was playing it. It felt janky, it felt cheap, and I didn't really see any other way to play it. And that brings us to the sound, of which is non-existent. I saw a video on this before. Like the music is lowered so that you have a better sense of your surroundings, but the sound design is garbage. So you can't really tell where the enemies are coming from anyway. Most of the time, I could hear an enemy right next to me, and it was actually right next to me on a different floor. So it's like, you got a general idea, but the tension, the stress is just off the charts, usually for no reason. So the sound design is garbage. And that brings us to the story, of which is also non-existent. And I was surprised. I even thought to myself in the middle, like, that's fine. You know, Resident Evil games don't have much of a story anyway. No, they do. They absolutely do. It's just this game did not. It had no story. It was literally just Leon porn. It was just how cool can we show Leon being within 3 hours, which is how long about that the cutscenes in this whole game last, as opposed to a game with a story lasting a shortage of about 8 hours, maybe. There's no connection to any of the characters. You get Ashley, and they fall in love in some way, and that's shown, but you don't feel that. You feel no connection to Ashley whatsoever. You don't feel like Leon should feel any connection to Ashley whatsoever. They don't talk to each other. They talk to each other once or twice. They say a couple sentences to each other and nothing else. And it's just odd. I mean, maybe I'm spoiled by newer games where the characters talk to each other very well, but I feel like even back when this game was released, that could have been done. That could have been the norm. I don't understand. Krauser, series favorite from what I can understand. Who even was he? The vagueness of his character was obviously meant for side material, but as far as I can tell, the side material did not do so well, so then his character is then nothing. Ada is on Leon's everything so much, like unnaturally so. And I can get behind the idea that she's in love with him. I can get behind it, but like she idolizes him in this game, and it's kind of weird. I don't know, maybe it makes a little bit of sense, but it didn't make sense in the moment, so what does it matter? None of the villains were any good. None of them. Wesker was fantastic, and he was in there for 5 seconds, just as he usually is. He's always fantastic in 5 seconds, and he has done more for the series in 5 seconds than Salazar and Saladin and Salandit. I don't, whoever these people are, did in an hour. I think they got more screen time than Ashley, regardless of the fact that she's following you around for a lot of the game. And the Ashley sections weren't that hard at all. I don't get it. I'm not really sure what the hype was about that. She was stressful at the beginning. It was like, oh no, I have to protect her. But then the enemies don't do anything, so I mean, I'm sure it's hard. I'm sure it's worse on harder modes, but why would you torture yourself like that? That's a different conversation. Yeah, the every scene is just the QuickTime events weren't bad. I can see why a lot of games were inspired to do QuickTime events from this game because they were done pretty well. They're probably the best QuickTime events I've done, and I played God of War. God of Wars were okay. These generally made sense. They were not super annoying. And there's where I think the story thing comes in. The cutscenes, I think, were short because of the QuickTime events and how, like, if you fail a QuickTime event, you have to restart a whole cutscene, and you don't really want to do that. Even though for the Krauser fight, you kind of have to. But I think the main problem with the story is that there's no files. There's no building of the world. And that's a tragedy because even in the credits of the game, you get a little you get a little building in the credits. You start feeling a little something for the villagers, but I would have liked to feel a lot more in the moment when I was killing them. And no, I don't care that they're not zombies. Anyone worth their salt and who has actually played Resident Evil doesn't care that they're not zombies. They are pretty much zombies. Resident Evil is about viruses and creatures as a result of the viruses. Zombies were the first. And just because zombies were the first doesn't mean the natural progression is more zombies. Natural progression, as shown in Resident Evil 2, was lickers. Resident Evil Remake, we got Crimson Heads. You know. But there was no files. There were little files in the game that were pretty much, haha, I'm the bad guy. I'm doing this to be the bad guy. He'll never find out. Right where Leon is going to walk. And it's just sad. It's sad because even that wasn't enough to make me feel anything for the villains, and they could have just put all that effort into the people that I was killing. To make me feel more for the world that I was in that was already drab and dull. But it was fun. The inventory system was cool. And Ada's story, Separate Ways. Operation Ada was kind of like, I don't know what that was. It was weird. She already had I think it was just like a little extra, but not. Separate Ways was really cool a lot of the way, because it was just short enough. It wasn't like, oh, I gotta go through 5 chapters again. It was more like, oh, I'm going alongside Leon a bit and learning what Ada was doing, or as the fans call her, the woman in the red dress. I read a guide that someone wrote that actually said that, and I was like, no, I call her Ada Wong because she's a very important character, not a woman in a red dress. Seeing as in an entire game she actually appeared a lot more and was a main character. Anyway, Separate Ways was mostly really good, especially the epilogues, where I think just because there was no exposition in the entire game, there was no files, there was no explanation of anything. Ada talking about different things and how she feels about different things for like a minute was so much better than any other content in the entire game. The only downside to Separate Ways is the final boss. I can honestly say with complete confidence that I have never experienced a boss fight as dog shit as that. Fighting Krauser in a hallway, a short hallway, narrow, short hall. No. No. The entire point of of fighting him then is to shoot his feet until he dies. There's no other way to beat him. And is that a boss fight? Is that a combat? Oh wait, that's the combat in the rest of the game. Okay, I guess that's fine, huh? That's how you be good at Resident Evil 4. You cheese the enemies. So, I take it back. Krauser as Ada gets a A+ for doing what the rest of the game seemed to set out to do. Resident Evil 5. Let's just move on, because we spent a lot of time on Resident Evil 4, and I'm running out of time. Resident Evil 5, graphics were great. A little too much bloom. Very obnoxious on the bloom, but graphics were pretty good. I mean, at the time it was a next-gen game, it looked nice. There you go. Not much to say. Everything looked how it was supposed to. The atmosphere was so much more there. Especially after the first 2 chapters, it felt a lot like a Resident Evil game. And I liked it. The graphics were nice. The controls, the gameplay, so much better, so much smoother. The combat had a little more to it, although it was largely the same as Resident Evil 4. You might even say that a lot of the game was a reskin of Resident Evil 4, but that's a hot take that maybe we won't take right now. They literally took the Gatling gun enemies from Resident Evil 4. They slapped them in the same area that they pop up in Resident Evil 4, and they come out, and sometimes in an area that looks exactly like from Resident Evil 4, just during a different time of day, and it's just... Gatling gun enemies were shit anyway. Why would you bring them back? Why? Why? But the gameplay, everything was really cool. The co-op was fantastic. I have no idea how Sheva acts on her own, and I'm guessing I don't want to. The very limited space and the sharing of ammo brought the game back into survival horror. Although they threw a lot of ammo at you, you tended to have to be selective about what you pick up and what you keep and what you discard, just like in the original Resident Evils, and that was pretty sweet. I liked that. The story. Oh my god. Past the first 2 chapters, again, I really was not impressed by the first 2 chapters at all. I played the first 2 chapters thinking the game was kind of bad. And then, as soon as it hit that, I don't know where that was, but I feel like it was after the 2nd chapter. Once it hit that, it was just like, whoa, this is Resident Evil. This is, whoa. It just hit that groove. There was so much more content. There was so much more characterization. There was so much more Wesker. Thank God. Finally, the lack of Wesker after this game kind of felt purposeful and okay. And I was memeing about it. I was lamenting about it. But Wesker became a little less of a meme the day that I beat this game, and I think that's beautiful. I think that bringing him fully into a character finally was very nice. And the files in the game were absolutely amazing. The files made me feel like I was there. The files made me feel things for the different areas that I was going. I just... World's better. World's better. And notice how I skipped over the music, the sound, because that should just come second nature. I shouldn't have to say that the spatial awareness in a combat game is not there, because it should be there if you're making a combat game. And since it's there, it's just so much better. There's less music, sure, just like in Resident Evil 4, but again, it fits the game that it's in. Resident Evil 5 was amazing, and it was better than Resident Evil 4. The DLC chapters, Desperate Escape, was garbage. Nice little throwbacks to Resident Evil 3. You're playing as Jill. She stabs forward. You're making a desperate escape. But it really capitalizes on how garbage the combat still is in the game. Like, it's not... was far from perfect. It was just better than 4. But Desperate Escape capitalizes on how bad it is. Lost in Nightmares was fantastic. Going back into taking those graphics, going back into a Resident Evil setting was fantastic, and they added a secret little fixed camera angle mode, and it was baller. Them doing fixed camera angles again, finally, was baller. And it's sad to me that that's probably the last time they'll ever do it. But that's just how life works, I suppose. Yeah, Resident Evil 5 just overall was fantastic. I wasn't disappointed by any of it, even though the whole Wesker and Jill thing kind of felt like it came from a special genre of story that I'm not too fond of. It felt weird. And the ending was basically a ripoff of JoJo Part 2. Almost word for word. Which was really weird. But still, I liked Resident Evil 5 a lot. As for content, like, the two DLCs were alright. Lost in Nightmares was great, but, like, didn't really do anything. Got costumes and Mercenaries. Mercenaries was... With a short amount of Mercenaries I played in 4, I feel like it was a little better than 5. And supposedly that is a common thought process. Still with me? Good. Resident Evil 6. Looked nice. Sound design, pretty nice. Things were very loud. Content, you got 4 full campaigns. Cinematics, story when it was good, It's fantastic. But let's talk about the controls a little bit. Resident Evil 6 is actually when they got rid of tank controls. And I had heard about this, but I had forgotten when I started playing. I started playing, and of course you had the tutorial sequence where you were forced to do things, and it felt worse than Uncharted. I don't know how they screwed that up so bad, but I was just like, okay, that's the tutorial. I started playing, and moving around made me feel physically sick to the point where I actually had to stop playing after the first chapter, just to orient myself to what I would have to deal with for another 5, 10, 14 chapters? God. I got used to it, of course, but it never stopped feeling awful. I never stopped feeling just real bad. And the whole praising system, where if you say thank you, they go, thank you. Not like, thank you. They go, why? Why? Why did Capcom make fun of themselves by doing that? I don't get it. And the crawling around like, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna... Like, why? Why? Let's talk about what's good. Let's talk about what's good, because I got used to all that. Chris's campaign, the second campaign that you play, was very interesting. It was a very natural... It was, for what it was, a very natural progression for Chris. I feel like there's not many arguments that can be made against that. I mean, it's 5 put him in a very army man type of role. A lot of that stuff tends to take tolls on people, you know. It's PTSD can appear in many ways. And of course, he manifested himself to be very militaristic and with a lot of guns, a lot of action, a lot of explosions, a lot of just things happening. Chris's campaign was solid, and the ending was arguably one of the most shocking and interesting moments in Resident Evil history. If I must say so myself, I was floored. And it's just I had one question that ruins his whole campaign, really, when you ask it, when you think about it. Without any answers whatsoever. Where are Jill and Sheva? Every step of the way, I asked where was Jill, and at the end of it, I asked where's Sheva, because like, I don't feel like Chris should have been in the situation that he was in whatsoever, with Jill or Sheva by his side in any way. Like, okay, Sheva goes back to Africa, but Jill's like his best friend. He saved her finally. Like she was supposed to be dead, and now she's not. Not only does she not appear, she doesn't save him, and so that's why I say, for what it was, Chris's campaign was a natural progression and a good story. All of it. Standalone, assuming that Jill and Sheva don't exist, it's fine. But they do. And so it doesn't quite make a lot of sense. That's the only tragedy to it. Like, I felt like it was very well written. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I did that math right. Okay. Jake and Sherry. Jake was the best character in the entire game. Like, it was the best written. I felt the most for him. I loved him to death. His whole campaign, therefore, also ended up feeling the most Resident Evil E. Um, it took away a lot of the militaristicness and combativeness of 4 and 5 and overran it with a story that captured me. Characters that captured me. Sherry Birkin is such a solid character now, and that's such a nice payoff. This is the best part of the game. And then, unfortunately, you have Ada's campaign, which I haven't, as of recording this, I haven't finished it. So, if anything changes, I will make an addendum. I might even make a little addendum saying Ada's campaign was good or Ada's campaign was bad after this. But I doubt I'm going to have to make any addendum to this. Ada's campaign is pure filler and fan service. You spend most of your time crawling, and when she crawls, her ass is right in your face. She's wearing latex pants. And you spend most of your time backtracking through levels you already played and fighting boss fights that she happens to be a part of. In their entirety, with all the cutscenes and everything. From all the campaigns. It's just... all I wanted to do was learn why she was there, what was going on with her whole side thing. And I got garbage. I got that, which was okay at least, at best, and I got garbage. It's sad. I'm sad about Ada. I'm sad Ada hasn't had a bigger role. I'm sad they showed her having a bigger role in this game and they didn't give it to her. I'm sad they objectified her like they did. And that was all the campaigns in the game. We don't have to talk about Resident Evil 6 anymore. We're done talking about the first game, the first campaign you're going to play. Yes, you can play them in any order you can. The first campaign you're going to play is Leon's. And it's a mistake. The whole thing is a mistake. It doesn't know what it wants to do. Its intention was to do a slow-paced, return to roots zombie story in Leon's perspective, and it tries to be slow-paced while still having action. And that's just... it's just a disgusting mishmash of sick and... none of the story has any structure or meaning or weight. No character has any weight to them. No moment has any consequence to it. And it's literally just a character leading Leon in circles until he just stops walking. That's the best summarization I can give for the story of Leon's campaign. And it's the worst way to start the game. It gave me such a bad taste in my mouth. But, on the bright side, Jake and Chris, man, they really, really wash away that taste. They're like Listerine, dude. Good solid gulp of Listerine, gurgle it, spit it out. So nice. They were just wow. I'd say Resident Evil 5 is better than 6, but 6 is not as bad as a lot of people put it out to be. It's just kind of a tragedy. It's a tragedy with little gems in the rough, and it's not. It's just. There's a simple solution. There's an absolutely simple solution to the whole thing. Play Jake first, then play Chris, and then just put down the game. If you need me to explain what was going on with Ada, sure, I will. Don't play Leon's campaign. Just don't. If you do, play it last, because not only do Chris and Leon kind of, I mean, Chris and Jake are interchangeable. You can play them in any order, but Chris kind of ruins something about Jake's campaign, and Leon completely shits on it. Like, when I played Leon's campaign first, and I watched the cutscene where he basically destroyed Jake's campaign, I wanted to scream. Because I knew that Jake's campaign would not be the same. And it's just sad. It's just so sad. Jake's campaign is also the perfect homage to Resident Evil 3, now that I think about it. Although, it's not the perfect homage. It's a good homage to Resident Evil 3, better than Desperate Escape. But the creature in his campaign is just really bad. Like, it was an okay attempt, okay idea, but it just fell flat, and it's sad. But the heart was there, the attempt was there. It wasn't a total loss. Let's do it. Let's take the Resident Evil games. Let's rank them. 2, 3, 0. No. Sorry. Remake 2, 3, 0. Code Veronica. Code Veronica. Go back to 0. 5. Code Veronica 4. 6. The original Resident Evil. Is that controversial? Is that let me know. Let me know what you think of that. I think that's about right. 4 is overhyped. 5 is... I was gonna say 5 is Fear I Can Forget, because the tagline is Fear You Can't Forget for that game. But that was when I was playing the first 2 chapters, and after that was a pretty unforgettable experience. It was Fear I Can't Forget. 6 is Fear I Would Like to Forget for the most part. But there's stuff that pulls me back. I think that's a solid summation. Leon deserved better. He didn't deserve to be a... He didn't deserve to be a Dante. Dante does enough with his job. I miss old Leon. I miss old Chris, but I mean, natural progression, right? Up next is Revelations in 7. I hear a lot of good things about 7, and understandably so. We will see. We will see. We will see if I beat them before the 2 remake comes out, huh? Here's hoping. Here's hoping this was good. This is the only take I'm doing. If it's not good, I'm not uploading it. And only my friend Zakito is going to see it.